or who are working poor. At any rate, so we realized that we had some real issues, because if you're unemployed, if you have children, you can't get the children, if you don't have transportation, you can't get the children to daycare, you can't get to a job, you can't get to training, all of those barriers. So we went on the lookout for a way that we could make transportation possible at no cost for individuals who were 150% of poverty and who were doing anything related to employment. And that means training, that means job searching, that means going to Central Alabama Community College to get your degree, whatever. And we have that program in place. That is a federal program that brings dollars in, reimbursable dollars, and anyone who falls underneath that umbrella rides transportation for free. Now, and let me tell you how it works. You got a mom. She's got 3 babies. None of them are school age, so there's no transportation for them to get to school. She needs to go to training. She needs to go to a job. We pick her up in the morning. We take her children to daycare. We take her to Central Alabama Community College. This is a true story. We take her to Central Alabama Community College. We pick her up at noon. We take her to her job. We pick her up in the afternoon. We go back around and pick up her children and take her home. Doesn't cost her anything. Now, I will tell you, success after success after success, that mama won't be riding that van for long. You know why? Because we have eliminated a barrier to access. And she's going to get that degree. And she's going to get that job. And she's going to sustain that job. And I'm going to tell you a story at the end that has been an ongoing story. And I tell this, and I wish that Shakira was here, she would tell it to you. She told it to a group of lawyers about 1.5 years ago. And I was real nervous because these were trial lawyers, and I assumed that they would not be real receptive to this bleeding heart, do-gooder story. And really it's not that. It's a true life story, but the reality of it is, at the end of the day, there were tears in the eyes of these folks because of her story. And they wrote a check for $150,000 to the Alabama Network of Family Resource Centers because they want to grow, and they've contributed a lot more too. They want to grow these models across the state. But let's go back and look at what we've done. Because we brought together stakeholders and community, we have continued the process. Now, we've utilized a variety of processes. One initially was something called Together We Can, and you can Google it. You can go online and Google Together We Can. It was developed by the U.S. Department of Education, I think, back in 1990.
Mid-90s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is a process model. It's it is basically developing collective impact. If you want to take some time to read up on collective impact, it'll tell you what it is. It doesn't necessarily tell you how to do it. And we utilize that Together We Can process. We have revised and revamped and continued to grow our way of doing business. But it's been very interesting and exciting because as we have gotten the right people on the bus, because not everybody wanted to join in, would you imagine that? Not everybody wanted to come around this issue. I will have to say it was critical that we had someone outside of education ringing the bell. Dothan had their mayor taking the leadership role. Because if you don't have business connected to this, it's going to look like another bleeding heart, do-gooder program. We went to Dothan in 1997, 96, late 96, to see. And we had the president of the bank, we had the CEO of Avondale, we had the Chamber of Commerce folks, a lot of business. And we laughingly now go back and say, you know, we had the Bleeding Heart do-gooders, and then we had the others that went with their arms crossed, you've seen the look, rolling their eyes back that this was another welfare program. Well, we knew it wasn't. When we left Dothan, Alabama, after 2 days of spending time at the Alfred Saliba Family Services Center, everybody was on board. Everybody wanted it in Sylacauga, Alabama, and initially, that's what we planned. Sylacauga and a 10-mile radius. We have taken that model. We have worked together in a collective impact framework. And fast forward, Dr. Cobia involved with let me go back. In 2000, we had an opportunity to go to Auburn to look at and hear about a program called Bridges, which was an after-school program for children in that pre-adolescent age. Bridges, bridging from childhood to high school and on. And we brought together our team. We didn't just come from education, and by that time, well, we did a nationwide search to get an executive director to be over our Sylacauga Alliance for Family Enhancement, Safe Family Services Center, and we brought in a gentleman from Texas. He came in August, and he left in November. And at that point in time, many of us were around the table as sort of the guiding board. We had established a 501c3, we were doing business, and I was the guidance counselor at Indian Valley Elementary School, and the board asked the superintendent if it would work for us to share that position until we could, just as a transition, until we could get somebody else in to take on as executive director. And so in 1998, in January 1998, I started doing part-time. Well, I would do my day at Indian Valley, and then I would go over to SAFE. Well, you know, thinking we were going to get someone else in, well, I'm still there. 18 years later, I'm still there. And I will have to tell you, it's the greatest opportunity I've ever had in my life to do what I think we're all called to do, and that is to come together and work together productively to strengthen and support families and to make sure that all of our children have a healthy start for a healthy future. But we started our after-school programs. We had an opportunity to bring in an AmeriCorps Promise Fellow. I don't know if you're familiar with the AmeriCorps program, but if you're not, you need to be. AmeriCorps is a wonderful way of building leadership and building teachers, because let me tell you that 95% of we've had AmeriCorps since 2002. And I think it's about 94% of those young people who have come through the AmeriCorps program, sometimes staying 2 years, are teachers. Naturally, they are engaged in working directly with students. That's part of the requirement there. But we started our after-school program at the Baptist Church. Again, this is collective impact, the Baptist Church, and we had 3 students in after school. We have, and then Dr. Cobia comes in, and we begin to really look at what are the needs. We expand the after school programs. We now have after school programs that SAFE operates at 2 churches and and we're about to do some more, and at the middle school. The 2 churches are first come, first served students, but they're all at risk. And it's a full comprehensive approach. We're real excited because we're doing a lot of STEM, and I've heard about all that, but we're doing a lot of STEM. In fact, we've got a proposal into Alabama Power to do Project Lead the Way, and we're real excited about that. But we're doing in-school tutoring. We have lots of retired teachers, folks, that are highly qualified, highly trained, that want to be a part of this. And that's, in fact, when I go into the schools now, they all going, get away, because we like to recruit. We also have teachers that are currently teaching that come into the after-school programs. We have, in fact, today we have our Saturday school, and our Saturday school, it was going over the Pancake Day and participate in that. We also are doing a what we call a Turning Point program. It's a juvenile diversion program, and we have that on Saturdays, and that's parents and children that are coming together we're utilizing, if you're not familiar with the White Tri program curriculum, go online and take a look at it. We're doing a research project with AUM to look at what we're trying to do is get the Y-Tri to be an evidence-based, SAMHSA evidence-based prevention program. We're not there yet, but we're moving along on that. But we are seeing tremendous. We also have had. We do not have the current time, but we are looking toward moving back to that Access Credit Recovery After School Saturday School program. And when we had those programs, we had at least 40 students a year. 95% of those students recovered credit, and I'm going to tell you where they'd be if they had not gone through that program. They dropped out. Mm-hmm. And it has been tremendously successful. And that program cost about $15,000 a year. Why? Because we're doing it together. The schools provide, we provide, the community provides, and we can make it happen. So that after-school program, Dr. Kobe and I went on the road many times. Actually, Alabama hosted a Grad Nation Summit. Sylacauga is the only community in the state of Alabama that is a 6-time designee as one of the 100 best communities in the nation for young people. Not because we're perfect, not because our outcomes are always what we want them to be, but because we have the capacity, and it is human capacity, it's human will to come together, to work together with a common vision, a common mission, understanding that we individually can't be all things to all people, and working together to make it happen. That's why, we've got people in our community when we were designated going, well, I mean, we've got some issues over here. Well, yes, we do. Of course we do. But what we've been able to do is come together, and Dr. Kobe and I were invited to present at the Alabama Grad Nation Summit several years ago when Alma Powell actually came to Alabama. They videoed us and we were on TV and all that kind of thing. But the reason being that what had been developed was a continuum of support for students. And that continuum of support isn't just at Bridges. That continuum of support begins prenatally because we are working, are you familiar with Parents as Teachers? Parents as Teachers. We are working with moms prenatally. We're primarily focusing in Talladega County, and by the way, we're doing this in Talladega County, Coosa County, and Clay County. And so we are working one-on-one with these. In Talladega County, we're focusing on 18-year-olds and below because we have a high incidence, and that's another thing. As you're going through all this, you've got to justify why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to have a transportation program, or you're going to create a new transportation program or a Parents as Teachers program, but you've already got it, what's the point? It's not about duplicating services. But at any rate, we do the Parents as Teachers program, and we have had, this is our first year doing the intensive program, and we have had about, I think, 8 babies on the south end of the county that have been born healthy. And that's what we want. We want these babies to be healthy. We want these moms in partnership with us. We don't know, this is not a power over model. We're not going in and telling you how you're going to live your life because it's not working for you. It's a power with. We are what used to be the neighbor next door. I am very fortunate. I grew up in a neighborhood where there were moms who were at home in the afternoons all day long. There were lots of them. And if I was down the street doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, there was somebody that was my mom or my dad. And my mom learned how to parent on the front porch folding diapers with all the other moms in the neighborhood. There was that protection. And when we're looking at what do our communities look like, we don't have those protections, so we've got to be the protection. We've got to be that friend next door. Back, pre-K is a buzzword, big buzzword. We know that pre-K is so important to what happens when they get to you all. It's more than pre-K. Clearly it's more than pre-K. But I want to tell you about what happened in Talladega County. Years ago, when there was a real focus on early education, when we began to look backwards past kindergarten, there was a governor's task force that came together to address that. I think it was Don Siegelman at the time. And it provided a movement that developed the Department of Children's Affairs and the Office of School Readiness, which if you know anything, you know that's where these pre-K programs are being administered out of. And at that point in time, they were looking for 6 counties across the state to pilot these pre-K programs. And the premise was that it had to be a community collaborative. And so the people that were making these decisions went around the state and looked at, what counties that were offering themselves as the opportunity could make it happen. And Talladega County was selected, and I'm going to tell you the reason why Talladega County was selected was because we had a history of working together. At the time, we had HIPPY, Home Instruction Program for Parents of Preschool Youngsters, which was a project, a collective impact project underneath SAFE, and we had other resources that we were bringing to the table. And so we were selected to be that pilot site. Now, last year, the governor, Governor Bentley, celebrated the first graduating class of pre-K of the 6 sites. Guess who had 2 of the 5 students that were recognized out of that inaugural class moving forward in Talladega County, the collaborative effort that came together as one of the first 6. I'm going to tell you another success of that. It's not just the fact that we have 2 students who probably, under other circumstances, had not had these opportunities, would not have graduated from high school. And by the way, they're both in college. The parent of one of those students was a hippie mom. Her child went through the Home Instruction Program for Parents of Preschool Youngsters and was enrolled in the pre-K classroom. That mom is employed by SAFE as a hippie parent educator. She, in fact, is going back to pursue her education. That's what happens when you lay that foundation, one process over another. And that's just one of our success stories. As we've been moving forward, as we have continued to grow these, and I've left some information for you that we'll take a look at exactly the kinds of initiatives that come underneath the umbrella of this collective impact model. We have at SAFE, housed at SAFE, we have, of course, adult education. We have employability skills training programs where we, on average, are able to employ about 60 individuals a year, even during the time when the economy plummeted. And not only did the economy plummet in Talladega County and Sylacauga just like it did everywhere else, but we also had another devastating blow, and that was that the textile industry went, I mean, it did not exist. Everyone knew it was going to happen. It just did not happen in a timely manner. And so, again, we have this mechanism in place to take a look at what's happening at the family level. We knew what was happening economically at the job level. So what we did was we decided that collectively that we were going to reach out to these individuals who had, and there were some other industries that were collapsing, to see, other than a job, what was your greatest need? And we surveyed, we asked the people, and clearly access to food was the top priority. So what did we do as a community since we knew how to work together? Again, our mayor, a different mayor at this time, and if an organization can survive politically a lot of changes, then there's some sustainability there. But our mayor came together and said, okay, what are we going to do to address this? So what have we done to address it? And what has springboarded out of all that? We created, and it actually sits behind the Family Resource Center. Our Family Resource Center the building was provided to us, a very small portion, by the Sylacauga Housing Authority. They were building a new building, and they allowed us to move into part. We've pretty much taken over the entire facility. And over behind, we have 3-acre community garden, totally voluntary. The faith-based community and people from across the community. We have one part-time, what we call lead gardener. But you will go to our community garden, and we provide food to the community, healthy food. We have a fruit orchard, and we support that fruit orchard because people can purchase trees, and in memory of or in honor of an individual, we have about 60 trees in the orchard right now, and we do. Actually, we just had, I don't think Dr. Cobia knows this, Alabama Power, the pipeline project. Well, in order to I don't know a lot about all this, but they have to use these big 18-foot huge timbers that a company out of Canada provides, and they've been sitting off of 280 on this property, and we were driving by one day and we thought, raised beds. So, I didn't, but some of our folks that work with us. And so they just donated about 130 18-foot timbers. They're priced out at about $250 a timber. To the city of Sylacauga has brought them in, and we're going to be getting them out because, we don't just have a community garden anymore. We have school gardens. And that's why we were at the class banner awards day, was because over the course of the last about 5 years, we have come together to not only address all the other things that we are looking at, but knowing that wellness and food security is critical to what happens when they are in your corner of the world. We have together, and I can't say this is together, we have been able to develop 6 pilot community school gardens across the county. Now we're countywide. This is across the county. And we have embedded that with the WAY curriculum, which was Wellness, Academics, and You from the Institute for America's Health. And this curriculum is embedded across the curriculum. So if you go into Pinecrest School, for example, or some of the other schools, you're going to see kids doing math, but they're up jumping around, and they're doing, they're engaged in physical activity. In the morning, the children are coming in early, and they are engaged in physical activity. The teachers are engaged. We have been able to, and this has not just been safe. This is everybody working together. We brought resources in so that the teachers have the the elliptical machines, and everybody's exercising together, because what we're trying to do is build a culture of wellness. And to also give these students an opportunity to, we know that if they plant, if they harvest, if they eat, and they're eating turnip green smoothies and spinach smoothies, and UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham, School of Nursing, has been doing work with us over the course of years. We've done a whole literacy initiative, and I'm going to tell you about that too. But at any rate, they have come in and they offered us a grant so that they could do the research to see, well, let's face it, you can do all this, but if it isn't changing anything, why are you doing it, for crying out loud? Mm-hmm. And we are predicated on accountability, and Dr. Cobia can assure you of that, because everything we do, we measure outcomes. And we're not talking about testing a child. We're talking about what, and some of that does enter into it, but what are the changes, behavior, knowledge, attitudes, all of that. And so we've been lucky to have some pretty impressive partners to help us measure that, and UAB is doing that with us now. Initially, we've had some pretty good results. Now we're expanding this across the 6 sites and going to grow it more across Talladega County. But, and we're doing a lot of other things in relationship to school and community wellness. And all of this, again, is embedded in the after-school programs. We have brought in community service workers that work in the garden, and they also get a little bit of education on the side in terms of employability and things of that nature. So you've got this full wraparound of support and opportunity